thing. So I'm just thrilled to be able to just grill these two that are about to come on stage. You know, I've spoken a lot about these two throughout this whole run, and you know, I really do mean it when I say that they are the best people, just the most humble. You know, you can call them at any hour about anything, and they'll pick up, and you know, they'll help you work through whatever writer's block you have. And on top of that, I mean, as you just witnessed with the last episode, they're really at the top of their games. So just, you know, if you could please welcome to the stage Yeun and Ali Wong. All right. What's up? You know, I thought we'd start at the beginning. You know, we've had quite a crazy couple months, a lot of hardware and trophies, and I think collectively, the three of us, and probably individually, we've all done some reflecting on just how we got here. And I wanted to ask you if you, we can start with you, Stephen. If you remember kind of the first conversation or the first thing that drew you into the show, and kind of what stands out about that initial moment.
Oh man, I do remember it vividly. I was right across the street from Phil Chang, staying at a like an interim apartment in New York, in Brooklyn. I was in the middle of this other film, and then I was just like outside on a smoke break, and then you called me, and then we're just chatting like we do, and then you just said, hey, I have this idea for two people who get into a road rage incident, and I was like, hell, fuck yeah, let's do it. And like that's kinda it, right? Like I just said, fuck yeah, off of that. I thought that was gonna be more. I was like thinking it was like more elaborate, but no, that's
Well,
it.
I think I think that's your side of the equation. What I remember on my side is Stephen and I have been friends for many years leading up to that moment, and I probably had pitched you, I don't know, 30 things.
Oh, no, like two things.
I'd be like, hey, what about this show about AI and stuff like that? And Steven's always been like, nah. And he's working with like the greats, you know, director Wong and director Lee Chang-dong and whatnot. And so I was ready to like do this whole spiel, you know. I had like my notes app open. He was on speaker, and I was like, oh God, like all the points I have to get through. And it was really surprising when like 4 sentences in, you were like, let's go. Yeah. So
It was meant to be.
Yeah, I kind of dig into that a little bit more. Like when you choose projects, is it just sort of this intuition you feel? Like, did you hear road rage and just the simplicity of that is something you responded to, or like how do you instinctively say that?
I think for me too, there was a lot of context about like our shared experience of like even where we were aware of society, I guess. Not that we had any like salves or like solves for anything, but we often talked about like how polarized, but like literally polarized it was. It almost felt fake how polarized it was. And we're like, it feels like the Spider-Man meme, just everybody pointing at each other, putting on blame at each other, but like there's some common ground there. So I think when you said two people in a road rage incident, it just clicked. The same thing probably that hit for you, which is like, oh, there's so much to say there. So I think for me, that's it. There's a little bit of gut. There's a little bit of just like what's happening. There's a lot of it I just wanted to work eventually, finally with you. And then I think all our conversations were like looking for that thing. think that felt right.
Allie, do you remember our first convo?
I remember very well. I was in in San Francisco, and you called. It was 2020, right?
Yes, that's correct.
It was like the beginning of COVID, and Sunny said, "Oh, I have this road rage incident that happened to me, and I have this TV show that I want to do based on it with Steven." And I always imagined the driver opposite of him to be a Stanley Tucci type. And now I'm thinking that it would be a lot more interesting if it was you. And I was really intrigued by the story, but I was more excited by the idea of working with you and Steven. I mean, we all met on Tuca and Birdie, where Steven and I, quite the opposite of beef. We played two birds that were boyfriend and girlfriend in a long-term, non-marital relationship. And that's where I first met Sunny. And then I always wanted to write, I always wanted to work with them more. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, of course I'll do it. I don't think I could have, I don't think I even had any questions or anything. I just said yes right away.
Yeah, you did.
That's what I'm saying. When you know, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, we were talking about something else on that phone call. I think maybe it was a different animated project.
Yes, it was the day before, and then you called me the day after.
And
yeah. And I was like, why are you calling me? You rejected me about being a writer on my new animated project.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever told you this, Stephen. This is a breaking news. But I don't think I had run it by you or A24 yet that I was gonna pitch Allie. I think I told you after the fact.
That's right.
But then after the fact, I was like, I haven't told Allie yet, but what do you think about it?
Oh, is that
Lies!
I think so.
Scandal!
Yeah, a little producer hat on, but we'll sort this all out after the panel.
You also didn't have to tell everybody at all.
Yeah, it's been weighing heavily on me.
It's on the.
Oh, it's being recorded. But it was kind of, in our initial call, there was just something about the way you were just catching up about life and the way you were talking about difficult things in such a humorous manner. I think that sparked something in me, and I was just thinking about the narrative and how much more interesting and layered it would be with you opposite Steven. That I just kind of impulsively called you, and I don't think I was even supposed to pitch you yet, and so it was kind of a rolling of the dice to have you be immediately into it. It definitely felt like we were on the right track.
Yeah, and then Steven called me after you lied to him.
Yes.
And then he was like, Sunny just told me that he had an idea about you doing this, and me and Sunny have been going at this for a long time, and now I can't get you out of my head. Inception.
That actually makes me wonder for you, did this project, out of your many projects, feel different when you formed it?
Yes, very much so.
Right?
But this leads to the next question. I don't think I've ever been a part of something where the core creative, us three up here, there was just a level of trust and acceptance of one another. I think, we've talked about this before, and I don't know if you all feel like this at times in your life. There's a lot of copying and mimicking you do when you look around and you're just trying to fit in, whether at work or with friends. And, most people spend a lot of their time just constantly feeling like they're never gonna really understand who they are inside, or even have the space to discover that. You're just always copying and mimicking. And this is the first time, speaking with you two, that I felt comfortable enough to not have to be so performative. And, I think it's really a testament to both your personalities and how you approach creating things. You've both been attached to a lot of things. What was it about the development process of this show that did it feel similar to other things you've worked on? Did it feel unique and special, or I don't want to say special? That's a loaded. I'm like, did it feel,
Was it the most incredible experience
compared to all the others?
Like a privilege? Did it feel like an honor, once in a lifetime opportunity to work with and collaborate with?
Does everyone pale
genius?
in comparison to
This is why I
You could say the question in the answer.
Did it feel like karmic justice that?
I mean,
Yes, it did, Sunny.
this is a bad setup, Netflix. I should be on that side. But I guess what stood out in terms of developing this early on? Like, was it the conversations? Was it,
I mean, I don't know, it was really fun, I think, I felt like part of it was the hilarity of judging yourself and the places you come from and the people that you once encountered. And then on the flip side, in that very same moment, having like such compassion for those same people. I think that was really fun, of remembering parts of my past or situations or places that I've been in or come from without like a negative memory about it, more just like that's hilarious. Like, do you remember that? And then having a lot of like grace for it too, to know that like the way that I judge it now, or I did judge it maybe in my 20s and 30s when I was like desperately running away from it, was maybe a little bit misguided or misunderstood. That was nice.
I think just, developing these characters and just down to choosing their wardrobe. I mean, I think it was Sunny's idea for Amy to dress in all of these shapeless neutrals, and the costume designer just thought it was so fun. She kept on laughing while she was dressing me because she was like, I think it's so funny that Amy is in these Zen clothes, but having these insane thoughts. And just see everybody just sort of discover these people and just, Danny, we went through like many iterations of Danny's wardrobe too. There was a time where you looked like an aviator.
Yes.
He looks like, and we're like, he looks too cool. And Steven was like, I like that one. We're like, yeah, because he looks cool. Because Steven looks like a model.
No.
He's not wearing 1980s clothes from good. If he's not wearing like 1980s Banana Republic, he looks like a fucking model. He's too handsome.
But rage happens on the road, not in the sky.
Yeah.
The wardrobe was really fun.
So that was really fun, just collaborating, and then just see, just discovering and all the discussions we had about the plot, and we were trying to also, for a long time, find out what is a naughty thing for Amy to do, and when we, talked about the gun masturbation scene, it was so exciting. I remember that day very well, and I was like, yes, that's it. And I think he thought I might have some pushback, and I'd be like, I'm uncomfortable with that, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. I can't wait.
Give me multiple guns.
And then just even rehearsal was fun. I have to say, every time I rehearsed with Steven, I was like, God damn, this guy's like really committed.
You were the same.
It's really, I'll always remember when you fell out of the truck at night, and he fell, we were just rehearsing, and he fell out. He really fell, like a couple feet onto his shoulder, and I was like, what are you doing that to yourself? And he was crawling in the dirt, and I was laughing, and I was horrified, and I was amazed. So, but I loved every single moment of it, really, developing it, and there was just so much discovery, and a lot of laughter.
In terms of wearing both hats, in terms of, with executive producer hat and you're the stars of the show, was there ever a moment where there's a little bit of conflict there? For example, Steven, I feel like we were developing Danny, there was a little bit of tug of war in terms of you as a producer wanting to explore all aspects of Danny and some more humiliating parts of Danny, but then as an actor, I'd imagine there's a little bit of resistance there. How did you sort of reconcile those two things?
I mean, I just trusted you.
It's a huge mistake.
I think there was a lot of moments
Because you're
where
a genius. And it's an honor to work with you.
There are no other directors before me.
Yeah, this is the new beginning. Yeah, there's BS before Sunny.
Yeah, before
There's
Sunny.
AS after Sunny.
I think certainly, I think there was a couple moments, like namely that episode where Danny is repainting his truck and he freaks out, and my want in that moment that felt like closer to something maybe that I would do in that moment was to like really angrily like punch out the side view mirror, and you did let me do a take in which I did that.
Yes.
We didn't use that one because it was too aggro. And then you
And there was no other mirror to punch after that. Yeah.
I ruined the show.
Well, I think that's where it was so impressive to watch you wear both hats, because I think as an actor, you're in Danny, you needed to let out that anger and that humiliation somewhere, and you know, Jake and I were at the monitor, and we're like, yeah, let's see where that goes.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
It horrified everybody.
Yeah.
And then we came back and we're like, let's watch playback.
Yeah.
You watched it, and you were just like, all right, what do you want me to do? But that takes wearing both. You're able to take off the acting hat and come in and have the objective awareness to watch it, not as Danny, and then go right back into Danny.
Man, I don't know. You give me too much. I think it's just straight up. I just trust y'all. You know what I mean? Like in that mode, I'm rarely ever coming out to producer world. In that mode, I'm really just sitting there to like get some truth out. And the thing that I trusted you on, that I actually, in the moment, consistently disagreed with from my own feelings, was I was like, man, I don't want to make Danny too pathetic. Like I don't want to make him like so like, you know, like raptor scream pathetic, instead of like, like angry. Like I wanted to. It flashed in my head like Robert De Niro getting mad, or like, you know what I mean? Like you want that. You don't want like rage-filled teenage scream. And for you to bring Danny to that place, I didn't understand that, or I didn't fully get it at that moment. But then seeing it in hindsight, it's like, yeah, this is like a repressed person. There was like you were just hitting that balance really well.
Yeah, I think I probably should have pitched it better the first time, because I think if I remember correctly, you were like, how do you want, like in the script it said like Danny shakes his arms and legs frustrated, and you're like, oh, like what even is that? Like how do you want me to do that? And I was like, you know Chandler Bing from Friends? You know when he does that, like, and then that's when you were like, I think I want to try to punch the. that was my mistake.
It wasn't your mistake, but like that's for me, right? I was like desperately trying to guard Danny. I was
Yes.
like, I did not want people to like really shit on him, but you know, sometimes you gotta be shit on.
Yeah. And Ali, you know, similarly in this episode, you know, there's that intimacy exercise scene, and you know that the camera is real close to you.
Oh yeah. I was like, back it up. I don't remember the last time I plucked my mustache. Back it up.
And it's obviously a very intense scene. You're digging into, you're talking about the void, about this, you know, this feeling that has never gone away your whole life, and you really go there, and you went there pretty early in the takes. You know, how did you prepare for that moment, and kind of like what's going on in your brain? Are you juggling the producer side with the actor side at all, in terms of, do you have a bird's eye view of that scene, or are you just kind of completely in the moment when you do it?
I really try to prepare I mean, it's really amazing to watch Steven work because he gets off book very, very fast. I'm not like that. I have to really, I started memorizing, you know, scenes maybe like 2 weeks in advance. Like, and then just so that it was just in me and that I could just be in the moment and that I don't really think about it much. I just show up to set. I always say this, people ask me what my process is. I don't really have one. I just memorize the words and then I show up to set and then I say them. And I pretty much do what I'm told, right? I don't really say like, I think I should be standing here. And that's the thing about trust. Like, I trust Sunny, so I don't freak out and I didn't really fight him on anything. With that, I was really nervous about the volume of some of the dialogue in some of the scenes, and I did try to negotiate with Jake Schreier to break it up so that, like, the therapy scene in episode 7, which I think you guys are about to watch, I was like, can we break this up into 3 sections? And that was like not a creative thing, it was mostly a laziness thing. And he said no. And then from a creative perspective, I just had to trust him and be like, okay, it's gonna work better as a thing, because he had a vision about it just being like 1 take. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to memorize the whole thing altogether.
But I know you say you don't have a process, but I mean, you both in the intimacy exercise scene and in that therapy scene, the tears are so loaded, and the expression that's coming out of you is so heavy. Like, are you just coming in there kind of like channeling something in the moment, whatever comes, or is there a little bit of mental
I just
preparation?
always felt very connected to, obviously I feel very connected to you and Steven, and I always felt very connected to the material. And I've never ever felt more connected to writing that I have not written myself than I have to Beef. And I think, that's why this project is so special and for me, because, and since then I have not felt as connected to anything. So I think when you feel, and you can really see a truth that you connect with in the writing and the text, that then, you don't have to think about it too much. You can really just memorize it and then just be.
I think all these questions are leading us to everything pales in comparison to Sunny.
Yeah.
Largely, like, every answer is like.
For sure. He's the one. He's the oracle. Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna make all these answers lead back to me.
Sunny's gonna get a SAG award after this.
The WGA nominations are. Could we talk a little bit about the crew and the collaboration that you had with Helen, our costume designer, and Grace, our production designer, and Larkin, our DP. You guys are our executive producers on this thing, and you did have I think a lot of decisions, landed on your desk. Could you just talk a little bit about that process on this show and sort of how you felt your dynamic with each of those HODs were?
Well, I mean, Helen, I love wardrobes and I love being part of that process. So just looking at George's costume too, the guy who plays my husband, I just loved the idea of him and Amy as this perfect couple where their clothes are expensive, but for the people with a discerning eye and who know fashion, they know that it's very expensive, and they're this perfect kind of Instagram couple to a very specific audience. So picking that out with Helen was just such a joy, and just to see her sense of humor come out too, with George in his biking outfit too, and his ridiculous apron, but then he looked so handsome too, was so funny. And then I love collaborating with Grace, because those wooden slats that are in Amy's house, I have wooden slats in my house, but then when I came to set, I was like, why does this feel different than the ones in my house, and she said, oh, I made them closer together so that Amy's house feels like a cage. And that really, you know, helped me get into character, because when I was in that house, I was always like, oh, this is really beautiful, but I did feel that sense of feeling a little bit trapped. And then, I mean, Larkin, I don't know anything about lighting, honestly. I know a lot more now, but like, I do remember shooting that scene, that intimacy scene you guys saw, and I was like, I can't see. This is really dark. But then someone who watched the show, who's a very talented writer, director, actor, was like, oh, this is so amazing that he lit it this way because she's hiding something. You know, and like you know, in great directing and in great lighting, you should be able to watch the scene without sound or words and still kind of feel the emotion of what's going on. So, I mean, I cannot say that I talked to Larkin a lot about the decisions he was making, but I like what he did. They were amazing, yeah.
Larkin is a killer.
He's amazing, yeah.
I think the same. I think for everybody involved, you know what I appreciated the most of this particular crew was people were all willing to do unseen, potentially unseen silent work. Like, you can only get there when, like, you can only get to the authenticity of like Danny and Paul's wardrobe when like you're not trying to be like, hey, I need you to know that I dressed Danny and Paul. Like, it's so specific because it's like a white tee with like specific cutoff sides or sleeves and like a church thing. Like, it's just so not flashy that you have to be willing to like do that. Same with Grace, like when you walk into any of those homes, any of those sets that she designed, they're incredible. You look at Danny and Paul's apartment and it's like, all I had to say to her one time was, I was like, can I have a magic 8-ball? That's all I asked for. I was like, this is awesome. I don't want anything else, but can I have one magic 8-ball? And she got it. You know, it wasn't like, why? She was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that's the fun of it. And Larkin, I mean, like, unseen work. Like, we're seeing it, but like, you don't know how valuable Larkin was to this. Like, we would not have made any of the days.
We would still be shooting.
Yeah, we'd still be there.
So the next episode that everyone's about to see, episode 7, it has my favorite scene in the entire show, which is when you show up at Amy's house and at the party, and there's this moment when it's a wonder, you walk and talk through the party, and then you land in front of the bathroom, and Danny's there to ask Amy, you know, he's finally gotten a little bit ahead in life, and whether all this climbing is worth it, and if she's happy. And then Amy says, you know, nothing lasts, everything fades, we're just a snake in its own tail. And it's such a powerful moment, and I think there weren't a lot of scenes where you two were together throughout the season. Can you talk a little bit about, because you were so separate for most of the shoot, what it felt like when you two did come together, the 3 or 4 times before the finale?
It felt like intense. You're always kind of in mystery of like, how's it going on the other side too? You know, you never know how the days are on your end. And so you're like, oh, I'm doing this, and then all of a sudden you encounter Allie, and I'm like, oh shit, this is electric. I remember every time we were on set together, we didn't rehearse anything. We didn't even like run lines much. It was just like action, and then we went for it. And I remember a lot of takes afterwards, just me being like,
yeah. Sometimes you go, ooh, spicy.
yeah.
That was spicy. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I just remember. I thought, you know, because Steven is such a great actor. I had this idea in my head before shooting that he was like gonna throw a donut at my head in between takes and be like, and it would be like full of acrimony to get into character. But actually, in between takes, we were just constantly laughing and having a great time because there is so much humor in the show, and because you know, and they're yeah, I would always describe it as like electric too. It was amazing, and I mean that's why and then the finale really was such an experience because we really hadn't seen each other much during the whole shoot, and then we saw each other so much during that last week in the elements in that forest, and it was great. Yeah.
It was really good. I could have done every scene with Allie.
Yeah.
Sunny's like, as a genius, that wouldn't have worked story-wise, but
You
I
did
know
not
that's
write.
what you would wish, but I have to tamper your wishes.
Yeah, everything you just described was by design. Great design. No, I'm just kidding. I think we're running out of time. Did we have time to open up to questions or no?
Someone say no.
We're like,
So, no, we don't.
maybe like, oh, we don't have one. Just like 2 questions. Yes, you're gonna have mine up first. She asked about her passive-aggressive smile that shows up throughout the series, and
Wow.
if there was any inspiration for that.
I don't really think about that much. I don't think it, like, even when I look at what happened on camera, I'm like, wow, did that happen? Like, there's that scene where Jordan shows me her crowns or something, and I go like that to one side of my face, and I'm like, I didn't know I could do smile with half of my face. That's so flattering. I haven't heard about that, but thank you. I have a passive-aggressive smile in my wheelhouse. I have no idea.
That was VFX. One more question. Let's do one maybe in the back, the very back over there, white sweater. Yes. Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering if you had any advice for actors, you know, trying to make it where you guys are today.
The actor advice question.
I feel so lucky. I feel like if I have
Steven booked The Walking Dead like the day he landed in LA. So
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So lucky. So I don't know if I'm the person to give you any advice. I will say one thing, which is like over time, this work transforms from something that feels like very tangible and like literal and like of just like things you can see and touch and feel and know right in front of you to something very internal. It kind of reflects a little bit of like life and how you express your own personal self. And I feel like sometimes when we're starting out, we get pointed at the wrong images of like trying to mimic those things. And I would say over time, I think if you really keep on getting what your truth is, that might have a better chance to be noticed and seen than anything else.
You know, when I was in college, I acted in a couple of my friends' student films, and it was such a great experience because they were very small, and then I got a chance to see myself for the first time on camera, and I'm like, my God, I'm really kabuki. This is too much. This is too big. I really need to dial it back. I didn't think I was doing the most, but I'm really doing the most. So I think just like instead of waiting for things to happen, just like getting reps in and, you know, doing other people's projects when you, and just, I mean, that can't seem to hurt. So I think that's a good thing to do.
We're going to screen episode 7, but before we do, let's give another round of applause for this.